Hey there, and welcome to another logiccloud tutorial. Today we will have a look at how we can run logiccloud control on a Bosch Rexroth ctrlX device. For this, as always, we will create a new project. Select the platform ARM8 and use the pump configuration. So now we have the project as is. We will leave everything as we have it for now. So first thing to do, we will create a build. And as soon as that is finished, we can create the runtime. Next, we can create the connection for the ctrlX. So here we will add the ctrlX connection, give it a connection, and we can use the use local data layer, which means we will access the data layer on the same device. Now we can add either a provider or a client. A provider means that we can publish variables to the data layer, and a client means that we subscribe to variables in the data layer. So first we will add a provider, and we will keep the address as logiccloud control and add provider. So now we can add the variables. So we can, let's say, add the inputs. So we have the set point and the pump on in with the data types and the direction either from data layer or to data layer, which means reading or writing. We will keep it as from data layer, and this we can say to data layer. We can save it with Control S or here by clicking on the save button. And then we can also add another one, let's say the filling. And this is also a float value. And we can publish it to the data layer. All right, next thing to do is to create a device. So we will go to devices, add a new device, and select the ctrlX core, and use the remote channel. Now we can go on to install logiccloud control on the ctrlX device. So I am here connected remotely to our ctrlX device, and I can go to install an app. And I will install it from File, select the file, and wait until the installation is finished. Once the installation is successful, we can now find logiccloud control in the main navigation, and when we open it, we get to the onboarding page. Now we can go back to the portal, copy the device token, and insert it here. When we get to the login screen, we enter the default password, which is logiccloud. And now we have successfully installed logiccloud control on ctrlX, and we are connected to the portal. Now we can go back to assign a runtime. So here we'll click on assign runtime, select the runtime we created before, save it, and click on install. As soon as the installation is successful and the runtime is started, we can go back to our device and open the HMI. Now we see here our HMI, and we can start the program itself, change the values, and we can see that our PLC is running. When we now go back to the ctrlX, then going to settings and data layer, we will see that we now have a logiccloud control node here with the provider and the variables. So notice how we have now in the connections we have the address logiccloud control/provider, which will be mapped in the tree in the data layer. So we have the provider and the variables. And here we can see the variable which is here. Currently the fill level is 90.82. And if we go back, we can see also it's 90.82. The other variables are booleans, and this one is the set point is here, and we could also change it, write it, and have the changes adapted here. So this is how we can publish a project to ctrlX and publish variables to the data layer. Now we will have a look how we can add a subscription to existing variables in the data layer. So when we go back to the data layer tree, then we have a system node, and under health we have a temperature value of the CPU. This is the value that is changing, and this we will now display in the HMI. So when we go back to our project, and now the first thing we need to do is to add another input variable. We'll call that CPU temp of type real. Save, and now we can add another access variable. We will just copy an existing one, give it the CPU temp, and same here with the CPU temp. For the path, it's of type real and an input. We can again save that. All right. And now we can jump directly to the HMI. So we will add a simple output here, give it the variable CPU temp, and leave everything else as it is. The same we can do for the smaller resolution, so that we have it no matter the display size. So let's add it here, also put the CPU temp in here, and save. Now that we have saved it, we can create a new build. Now that the build is finished, we can update our runtime with the latest build, save it, and now we can also add the client to the connection. We'll give it the name client1, and then we can add a new variable. We will add the CPU temp. Now we need an address, and the address is the address from the data layer, so the path in this structure, which is displayed here, and we can easily copy by clicking this button. When we go back, we can paste it, and we have the path here. It's of type float, and we will read it from data layer. Save again, and now we can update the runtime. So when we go back to our device, we can now see that we have an upgrade button. We will upgrade our runtime, which takes a short while, and there we will stop the current runtime, update it, and start again. Once this is successful, we can go back to our ctrlX device and open the HMI again. And now we can see that the output field that we have added is now reading the CPU temperature from the data layer. And that way we can easily subscribe to variables in the data layer that can be published by any other device or source also connected to the data layer and can be easily consumed in logiccloud Control. Thank you very much and stay tuned for the next tutorials.